Hey y'all, Jason here again from the D2. Today Fabio's going to be talking to Damian Fennell from Cityscape in London. If you like this video, give us some love, hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and we'll see you next week.
I hit the record button, so there is no going back.
You've hit it already?
Yeah, of course I did.
Alright, okay.
How are you, Damian?
I'm very good.
Very nice, and I'm very proud of the fact that you accepted to be on the show with us today. I'm very humbled by that, I have to say, because I don't know if you know the story, but I started Archiviz because of a friend of mine, Jonathan Evans.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
We
That's
studied
crazy.
together.
Oh my god. Oh, I did sort of know that. Wow, but I didn't know you'd started Archiviz because of him. That's amazing.
Look, we were studying together, we were at university, and he would come to university with these beautiful renderings, and I would ask him all the time, how did you do that? And he would say to me, yeah, with 3ds Max. And I was like, how did you do that?
What is this thing?
And then later on, I mean, following him on Facebook and so on, I realized that he was working for you guys. And at that time, I did not even know that there was like a company that would make renderings.
Wow.
So, I like the fact that we are slowly enclosing the gap, Hold on, let me center my camera a little bit better because you cannot see my branding. So,
really
Damian, thanks a lot for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I know that you're very busy. I was talking to your assistant, and it took us a little bit of time to set this up and organizing it the way it was supposed to. I don't want to steal a lot of your time also because, we spent half an hour talking about me. So I'm just gonna get to the first question, and, I give you some constraints, but feel free to ignore them. I know that people will hang from your mouth when you're gonna start talking. So, try to introduce yourself in 2 minutes or less, and good luck.
Okay, so hi, I'm Damian Fennell. I'm Managing Director of Cityscape. I became Managing Director earlier this year, so I'm still very much learning how the hell to be a Managing Director. I was Creative Director for quite a while, a few years. Joined Cityscape in 2007. Cityscape actually was founded in 2001, so it's one of the older studios in London.
I'm overlaying some of the pictures of the work that you guys do, yes? So don't worry if I look...
Check out, if you check out Wood Wharf, We Are Wood Wharf, or hashtag We Are Wood Wharf. That project has just launched. It launched a couple of days ago, and our images are all over BBC and so on.
I think I know which one you mean.
Really proud of that.
You can keep talking whilst I look for them.
Okay, there's a website. I think it's just woodwharf.com. I think so.
Yeah, I think I found them. Hold on, give me a second.
I'll tell you a bit more about, there's questions later on about my journey, but I was creative director. I'm also a practicing artist. I trained as a sculptor and painter. Best thing I've really ever made in my life was in 1999 while I was still at college. still trying to better that sculpture I made back then, which is a bit of a bummer. I'm married, been married since I was 21, and I've got 3 teenage kids. I love cycling. I've been cycling daily in London since I was a teenager myself. And I discovered this summer that I'm very, very bad at party playlists. Very bad. So it turns out that Arcade Fire is a bit depressing for parties. I didn't know that.
Random information.
Bit of random information. So that's me.
Damian, do you recall the moment in your life you said, okay, this is it, that's what I'm going to do, I will be an Archiviz artist?
I do vividly, yes. So there's a bit of a story to it. It was July 2007. I was 32. I was a practicing fine artist. Just had my our third child. I was, my life was setting up art shows that took months to make, lots and lots of late nights, and it made art quiz look easy in some ways. The shows were really cool. They had sort of fights at the private views and stuff like that, but they barely broke even. I mean, it was really grueling to try and make a living as a fine artist. I was also teaching, so I was courses director at a very cool startup art college called the Art Academy. It was inspirational, but we didn't have money. We couldn't even afford to heat the building. We couldn't even afford the rat poison to kill the rats that used to scuttle around at the back of the studio. So it was really hard work. It's now a very thriving college. So if anyone is listening to this is based in London, you should seriously check out the Art Academy. And I thought to myself, this isn't going to work. I can't do this. I can't see how this is going to work. But more importantly than my concern that it wasn't going to work professionally was that I had a sense that I had this real value. I had this thing that I could offer to the world. And it was in the realm of creativity, creative talent, really, creative insight. And I just kind of felt that in that realm I was working in, I wasn't able to realize that value. I mean, I could do the work and be creatively rewarded, but the art world and the art education world were not able to monetize that and turn that into what they thought was real value, because money is value, right? When people value something, they pay money for it. And when they don't value it, they don't pay money for it. And I just felt the injustice of that, and that I had this value that I could offer, and it wasn't able to plug it in where I was there. And I had this vague sense that there was these creative industries out there where people were doing creative work and commercializing it and actually being paid properly. And that was my desire. And I literally fell into Cityscape pretty randomly. I had no idea that I was going to go into ArtViz, didn't even know what ArtViz was, had no digital skills. I literally... I didn't even know that layers existed in Photoshop. Right? I was clone stamping onto the background image. And it was a credit to Cityscape that they took me on. They took a punt on me based on my artistic capabilities. And what I discovered when I got to Cityscape was this powerhouse of a studio. It was phenomenal. I had this desire to find a way to create value with creativity, and I fell into a place where this was happening all around me. It was extraordinary. And in addition to that, there was this climate at Cityscape that anyone could do anything they wanted. They just had to want it and had to be driven to achieve it, and they could do it. So there was obviously hierarchy, but there was no limitation on what any person could do at Cityscape. And then in addition to that opportunity at Cityscape, there was serious commercial insight, real serious commercial insight. Dan Harper, who was the managing director, he's still with us, but he's now chairman, had and has phenomenal commercial insight. So I found what I was looking for without knowing that I'd looked in the right place. And I hope that's how people still feel about Cityscape, actually. Land of opportunity. And I've also been trying to recruit artists ever since and give them the opportunity I had.
You know, you dropped a lot of information on me, and I would need a little bit of time to process them. Not because I think that you made a very good point about money and value. And, you know, to some people this might seem obvious, but I guarantee you that this is not the case. I think that probably one of the biggest issues, and we're gonna talk a little bit about this later, especially with the youngest ones, is that they don't really understand what value is. And, you know, because probably it's very easy for people to see the connection between value and money, because money can buy you stuff. But I guess that value goes beyond money. And probably, you know, you have your own take on this, and we're gonna talk about it later. But I'm also very happy to hear that there are companies where you genuinely feel that creativity is supported, because this seems to be one of the main issues nowadays, that people, especially, you know, artists that are just getting into the industry because they want to focus on their art, they seem to be struggling with that, you know, the art world is actually not really that artistic. So, you know, kudos to Cityscapes. But anyway, now there is a very quick segue, because I think that probably you have already given me the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway, simply because I want you to give as much as possible to those who are listening, so that maybe they can walk on your steps. What do you think was the biggest turning point in your career?
It was the credit crisis. So it was Christmas 2008. And in the UK, we had one of the biggest mortgage providers had folded. Never happened before in history. We obviously, Lehman Brothers had fallen in the States. Actually, both of those things were in 2007, but it didn't really hit the populace until end of 2008. But for Cityscape, it hit early, and it hit pretty hard. It hit us early and hard because our clients were all big London-based developers, not architects, mostly developers. And they just stopped spending money. The developers didn't disappear. They just went, right, we're going to park our projects for a few years until the climate improves. And for us, that was a cliff edge. I tell people the story of the wall of jobs. So back then in 2008, Cityscape had 60 people, and we had a wall of jobs. The wall of jobs was a glass partition which was floor to ceiling, and the producer used to write on it in whiteboard pen all the jobs, job number, blah blah blah, name of job, and there were about 50 of them at any one time, all the way down from ceiling to floor, like this. And starting from summer 2008 through to December, the wall of jobs started to shorten, job by job. This job is on hold. We're pausing. We're not going forward at this time. Job by job by job, rubbed off the board until literally there was nothing on the wall of jobs. It was, if I'd known what I know now, it would have been terrifying for me. And so by February 2009, there were 9 people at Cityscape. We went from 60 to 9. But for me, ironically, it made my career. So in August 2008, I was pretty bored. Felt like I was doing the same thing over and over again. And I remember going to the producer and saying, look, I need some responsibility. Give me anything. I literally said, give me anything. I don't care what it is. I just need something. I would have taken the job of running the cleaners for Cityscape. I just needed to run something. Anyway, he gave me a project to art direct. It was for Cityscape, a small insignificant project, 2 images, competition images for a London-based architect called Fletcher Priest. And it was a competition for a relatively small building in the City of London. I art directed it. Fletcher Priest won the competition, and that was good. And I carried on art directing other things, bit by bit. Then when the whole thing collapsed at Christmas, I came out the other end as the creative lead of the whole company. So that was the biggest turning point in my career. But I guess the significance of it was partly good fortune. It was in the right place at the right time. But the significance of it was that we then had to save the studio from death. And that was what I really learned, was to fight for survival and just claw our way back up from nothing to creating a new studio. Taking on any jobs that came through the door, regardless, ridiculous pay, ridiculous conditions. I remember directing an animation in early 2009. I literally had no idea what I was doing. I'd never done an animation before. Literally no idea. 2 weeks to deliver this thing for Birmingham City Council. And but we did it because it was survival. And the guys who stood together to keep the studio alive at that time are the directors of Cityscape today.
I would say that probably the message that you get out of this is, first of all, success rhymes with a lot of work. You know, if you put yourself in a position where you say, I'm ready to take the lead, I'm ready to take responsibilities,
yeah,
you take the risk of like having to eat a lot of shit, because if something goes down, it's your fault. But also, if you do get a chance to walk away from whatever it is successfully, then you make a name for yourself.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was going to talk about that in the latter questions. But yes.
Let's move a little bit further away, because it's. I guess that we're gonna ping pong back and forth with all the other questions that I have to ask you. Okay, so I think that this is very interesting on your personal level, and I think that in a way, personal is the result of you shaping your career in your company. Going back to your company, to what do you attribute your success, meaning of your company, and what do you think makes the firm different from others?
This is a big topic. I think I've touched on it already, but Cityscape is a really, really unusual studio. I feel that we don't fit the mold in any way at all. So we have 55 people today. We work for the top London developers still, and most of our work is London-based. So that's a little bit unusual in itself. It's not unique in London. There's a couple of other studios who are like that. I guess I'll answer the question of success and difference kind of at the same time. So the things that, what our success at the moment looks like is that we work on large-scale projects. We work on them at planning stage, which in the UK is a very challenging process for buildings. And we work on them at marketing stage, and we're also doing a lot of real-time VR, a lot. So about third in terms of our turnover and headcount as well. What makes us different is, well, there's a lot of things. So first of all, I believe in being different, right? I want to be different. So this is just me personally. So when I'm doing presentation to clients, I sometimes put a slide up at the beginning which just says different and better. Because I don't want to be like anybody else. I mean, it's not because it's not that I don't respect what is happening in ArtViz. I do. I love the industry and I admire the studios in the art viz industry, and I follow what they do and I admire them. But it's not my frame of reference. I don't look to my competitors to know where to put my vision. I'd rather look to the film industry, advertising, Frame Store, Pixar. How does a studio, how do the top studios in the world make creativity successful? Well, they're people like Pixar and Saatchi.
I wish what you just said was a little bit more understood by others, because I think that probably one other problem that we have in this industry is the fact that people simply look at the work of the big ones and say, I can do that, and then they just end up producing clones of everything.
Yeah, which is understandable, but you can't be different if you do that, and therefore you can't distinguish yourself and shape your own unique position in the market. And you need to be able to do that. Otherwise, why would anyone come to me rather than not me? Why would anyone come to Cityscape rather than any other company? And we've got lots of competition. There's some amazing visualization companies out there doing beautiful work. And if we put all of that work on the wall of all of our companies, it's pretty hard to distinguish one from another. So what is it that makes people come to us? Well, you've got to be different.
This I feel this is one of those questions that every artist should print and have on their wall all the time.
different and better.
Now also like, why do people want to come to me,
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. But so I guess some of that is working to provide something different, but in order to provide something different, your clients are going to want something different, and most people don't. Most of our clients want the same. They want the certainty and the safety of what has gone before, what other clients have done, what other studios are producing. So it's not terribly easy to produce something different, because you have to convince someone to spend money on something different. Therefore, they're taking risk. So that whole process is quite challenging. But there are, I think, for the people who might be watching this interview, I think they probably want to know about the studio culture and what makes us different in that way. And I think that stuff is important, because it's what's unique about the culture in the studio becomes what's unique about what we give to our clients. So while we do love the craft and the creative process of image making, but we also know that making beauty for its own sake without connecting it to what clients' needs are is kind of pointless in the end. If it doesn't achieve something, commercial goal for the client, then why are they buying it? So for us, the connection between beauty and purpose is absolute and has to always be there.
I really love the way you put it. Hold on, I need to quit a couple of programs because I still get notifications from now on that pop up. Sorry. But I really like the way you put it, because I'm not gonna be able to switch off Slack. Okay, so guys, I apologize for my Slack notifications. I really like the way you put it, the connection between purpose and, the beauty. I think this is something that I wish people were less pragmatic about. Like, it's not about the image. It really isn't about the image. When people say, I can do that image, that's not the purpose of your work. And I think that the way you put it, it kind of explains that better than I can do with my own words. So for that, I thank you.
Thanks.
Damian,
so-
I would like to move a little bit now from this part of the interview, because there are some things that I think are also very important to share. And believe it or not, but we've been talking already for 25 minutes. It goes like this.
Okay.
So I apologize
I have a lot of other things I could tell you that I feel is different, but it'll pop out.
Look, I tell you what, maybe we'll find other ways to get you involved, with our channels. And we can have conversations for an hour. I'm pretty sure that people after this, people will be like, okay, where's the version 2.0 of the interview?
Yeah.
Listen, now I'm gonna touch on something that it might be a little bit delicate for people to talk about, and I think that we have had taboos when it comes to mental sanity, especially in creative fields. So I'm going to ask you this question, and I really want you, to share as much as you can, because probably the best thing about talking about this stuff is to let people understand that nobody's a superhuman. And, things can happen to everybody. So in terms of mental sanity, working in this field can be very stressful. You work long hours, clients, you know how they are. You have to negotiate and compromise all the time. You have to optimize. How is this profession been affecting you personally? And what are the things that you have learned that allow you to maintain your head above the water?
Well, first of all, I have to admit that I'm a hard worker. I still work fairly long hours. We try very hard at Cityscape not to have a culture of long hours, but it is unavoidable sometimes. When it's busy, people end up working long hours, but we try to manage that down as far as possible. The question is how. But the core of the issue really is about how to handle stress. So I would say that I meditate and I go swimming. I do both sporadically and badly, frankly. So when I meditate, I think about work all the time, and when I swim, I look like a drowning baby. So they're not the answers to the question. In order to find the answer to the question, you have to look at the causes of stress. So for the average visualization artist, what happens is the client makes weird comments out of the blue half a day before final delivery, and this causes stress. It's stressful because you weren't expecting it. It's stressful because you hadn't planned for it, and therefore you feel out of control. And the cause of stress is that feeling of not being in control of what you're doing. Everyone has experiences of having had a very hard, long day, doing something that they really love, and going home exhausted, but feeling elated, emotionally uplifted. So it's not working hard per se that causes stress. It's the shit that goes on in the process of that. You could have a 5-hour day and be super stressed at the end of it and be struggling to cope. So therefore the question is what is the cause of that stress? And I believe it's this feeling of being out of control and not being able to control what you're doing. So how we have learned to handle it is by establishing control on our jobs. So, I could join a gym and all these other things. They're useful, but they're not tackling the core issue, which is removing the cause. So we deal with it by controlling the relationship around the project. What do I mean by that? I think fundamentally you have to start from this issue of value. Understand the value of your work, believe in the value of your work. And on the basis of the value that your work brings to the project, establish a really strong deal with the client. Don't have no deal. Going into a project with no deal is recipe for disaster. And don't have a weak deal based on someone else's notion of what they say is valuable about the images. Bear in mind that to the outside world, that project that hasn't been built yet exists in only one form: your visuals. Right?
Wow. Okay, all right. Oh, hold on a second, because it's there's too much going on in my head right now. I need to make sense of everything. I need to remember it. Okay, this is really, really cool, and I think that probably nobody has ever said it the way you have. And so many points that I really need people to focus on right now. Stress comes from not having control. This is probably a medicine. Like, if young people that are trying to do their solo thing, they fail and they get overworked, it's not because of the work itself, it's because of the control that they don't manage to have. And probably it's wrong of me to say the young people, because there might be some not so young people going into this business having the same issue.
Yeah.
And I think you're 100% right. It all goes back to this idea of understanding value.
Yeah.
All right, I just needed to make a little break, just because it's good if people hear this stuff twice. It's I think this is the only time that I had the feeling that somebody gave me like an illumination, like a revelation, was when talking to Mike Golden. I don't know if you have the chance to sit and listen to the interview that I did with him.
No, but I will now.
But this is I told Mike, when you talk, it feels like you live in a cave on top of the Himalaya, and I'm walking like for hundreds of kilometers by foot. And when I see you, you're glowing in a golden aura. And I'm having the same feeling with you.
Wait, I'm gonna take that bit. I'm gonna show it to my wife.
Which are the hardest clients to please, by the way.
Yeah. Or maybe my 15-year-old daughter. I think she's probably the toughest client.
Well, she's gonna look at this interview and she's gonna share it with her friends and be like, "I'm so proud of my dad."
No, she's gonna go, "Oh, he's such a loser." I can't. Oh, dear.
Damian, I'm gonna move on because I interrupted you, but really, I think that this had a lot of value, and I really hope that people will pause the video and go back and listen to this again, because I think that it's despite the fact that the question was about mental health, you have touched on a lot of other topics that were really important, and I think that you can only get value from this. But anyway, if I were to appeal to you as both the artist and the entrepreneur, if I asked you what scares you the most, what would your answer be?
Well, entrepreneurially,
we talked about the wall of projects and
the wall of jobs.
The wall of jobs, yes.
Yeah. I mean, fear is a funny thing, because it's right down in your being, isn't it? It's not always the obvious things that you're really scared of. There's things that I'm conceptually afraid of, but the things that really make me shit myself are down there, things that I don't really want to look at very much. And I think that experience of the wall of jobs did create fear. So I don't want to go through that again. but there will be other recessions. I know there will be, because there always are. Things go up, and then they go down, and go up. And the property industry, everyone knows the property industry is very boom and bust. So, yeah, that's one of the things I'm afraid about, especially since we've worked so damn hard to build it back up into this magnificent, thriving thing that's behind me. And I don't want to lose it again. So I guess the next global meltdown is something I'm really afraid of. And it's not something I want to say on air, because I don't spend my time thinking about, oh my God, the recession's coming, it's coming. Nor do we want to think like that, because it is a state of mind as much as a state of reality. Even recessions are a state of mind. But it's down there, that thing, fear of losing what I built up. That's entrepreneurially, but there's also the day-to-day entrepreneurial fear, and that is, I don't want us to make crap deals that lead to mediocre work that doesn't perform commercially well and that we're not proud of artistically. That's the day-to-day fear. It's actually more real than the other one. The other one's a memory of something that happened 9 years ago. But day-to-day, crap deals lead to mediocre work because you get forced into a position of making work that you're not proud of. And it's very avoidable, and it demeans our value when that happens. So that's what I should be afraid of every day. Artistically, I think it's doing the same thing over and over again. Not innovating the creative output, not changing the game, not surprising and delighting people. And artistically, personally for me, I want to contribute to culture in a meaningful way before I die.
Leave a mark.
Yeah, not my mark, but like add to the marks.
Okay, a couple of things that I want to say. Very often one of the questions that I get asked is, why do I get paid so little as an artist when, my company charges so much money for images? And I think probably people don't realize the responsibility that somebody has when hiring somebody, paying them a regular salary, getting jobs, and, the fear of a recession. What do you do when there is a recession? You cannot simply say to people, go home, bye-bye. I mean, you have to, but this comes in its own form as stress, I would argue, and as something that, it's going to kind of damage the way you're going to make decisions in the future. Like you said, you're going to have the feeling that, and it's not based on fear, it's based on the remembering of what has happened in the past. Also, people say, yeah, but the recession, blah, 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 you're talking about, I don't know, some conspiracy. I keep listening to podcasts and interviews of like big financial guys and investors and all that kind of, people. And it seems like a next crash is imminent, We don't want to wish it for ourselves, but what I'm trying to say is that these fears are real, and we cannot just simply assume that things are going good because business is good. And I think that we go back to the idea of understanding value.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry that I interrupt you all the time. I'm trying to make points because people need to understand what we're trying to discuss, because maybe this stuff, it's a little bit clearer to us because we keep talking about this stuff over and over. But I really try to break it down so that people can digest it easily. And in that you're much better than me.
It's very kind of you.
Listen, if you could go back in time, what would be the one thing you would be changing about your life? And, you have the freedom to talk about your personal life, your professional life, whatever.
Well, it's I couldn't think of much. I'm really blessed. I am very blessed. So all I could really think of was I wish I'd been born to taller parents. Now, I don't want to change my parents, so I'd have to go back quite a long way. I'd have to make sure that some of their forefathers had sex with some pretty tall people, maybe some Dutch people, and and then I would have come into this world just a bit more than 5'6".
Maybe ask your dad if he would have played basketball,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, well that's a good answer. Listen, Damian, how do you recognize people that can bring value to your firm? What is your criteria when you choose your staff?
So, we look for nature first and skill set second. And it's an easy thing to say and a pretty hard thing to do. Because when we're looking for artists to recruit to the studio, the main thing that everyone's worried about is, will they be able to deliver work, do good work and deliver it? So the basic criteria that most people consider is talent and reliability. And knowledge of the software, and so that they can turn up at the studio, do the work, and it's okay. So looking for nature first and skill set second is like saying we're not going to do that. We're literally not going to do that. We might employ people who we have no certainty are going to be able to deliver the work on day one. That's what it's like to try and employ nature first and skill set second. So it's very hard, but that is what we're trying to do, because in the long run, the character of the individual, their substance as a person, is what makes them successful or unsuccessful, or suited to the studio or unsuited.
It's a very hard thing to do, huh?
It's hard, because I look at portfolios, and when you see a good portfolio and a weaker portfolio, and we interview both people, what if the person with the weaker portfolio appears to have the stronger character, the more aligned character, the bigger vision? It's a pretty scary decision to make, but that's what we try and do. So what I look for, first of all, I look for drive. Drive is really important. The desire to be going somewhere and achieving something. Some impatience with where they are now, and willingness to take risks in order to get somewhere better. Because at Cityscape, they would be, in the end, they'd be uncomfortable if they didn't have that.
Well, eventually this is a very good segue to probably the next question, which is, what do you think artists need to do to advance in their career and grow, mainly within a company? Because, very often I think that people always ask me, how do I advance as a freelance, or how do I open my own company? I still think that most of the people that come to me with that question need to spend longer time in a company before doing that. That's the reason why I ask you these questions, because I try to motivate people to understand that life is shit even if you do your own thing. So, try to learn more before complicating your life even further.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay, so what do they need to advance their career and grow within the company? First and foremost, commit their whole being to the cause. Anyone who throws their whole being at the challenge will develop, and their value will grow. And I say this because we operate on the basis that we believe that all people, everyone, has phenomenal power. Now, I can't offer the right job to every person who walks through the door. But what I do know is that every person who walks through the door has phenomenal power and value. So then the question is how to tap into that person's power and enable a situation in which they can really thrive. And their power comes out, and power turns into value and success. So first and foremost, throw everything at it. Because if you throw everything at it, then things will happen. If you hold anything back in reserve for myself, then you won't get the greatest outcome. And when you're talking to a business owner who's interviewing you to give you a job in a company, that's what they're looking for. They're hoping that you're going to throw everything at it. I think that creative businesses need this more than other businesses, because our work is not high margin work. So you can't cruise along while the business is making 40% margin in your sleep. You can't. Everyone knows in art biz, if you fall asleep for more than 3 minutes, then your profitability just goes through the floor, right? So for creative businesses, you have to be more alert and more opportunity aware, I think, than in some other industries. Take responsibility. The studio is full of need everywhere. It's like need pouring out of every pore, and it's hard to convince people of this other than to say, well, how do you discover what the needs are? Just stay aware. Be aware of what is going on in the studio, and you will start to see that there is shit happening everywhere that needs help. And if you're willing to help, then you will learn things and you create value.
I really like what you just said. Can I ask you, when it comes to helping, okay, maybe the expression helping can be misunderstood for trying to do something at all time. You need to develop an ability to filter what helps really is and what is, like extra useless work, which in turn will be discarded, and it will add to your mental health in a way that you say, I've done so much and they don't appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can happen. People work hard and then wonder why things aren't working for them. I think it comes back to being aware of what's going on around you.
We always go back to value. We always go back to...
Yeah. And I bang on about people not wearing headphones in the studio, and I think it winds everyone up awfully. But that's really me saying, stay aware of what's going on. Be alert, because when you're alert, you will start to see things that matter. And that will give you insights, and when you have insights, you've got something to offer. And then your hard work will be directed into the right place.
Your hard work will be directed in the right place, yes. Yes. I really like that.
Because everyone has this power, right? People all have this power. You have to find the channel that unlocks that power and turns it into great value. And everyone has it. It's not that there are talented people and talentless people. That's not the reality of the world. It's that everyone has their talent. You find the channel that turns that talent into value for the studio.
Maybe one thing that I would like to add is probably
Yeah.
that if people don't have realized yet that they have this power, they simply have to wait. Because waiting will teach you how to make the right decision. It will teach you how to make the right call. And, you know, in my case, personally, at the age of 30, so 6 years ago, I was still not able to do that. And I've had a life where, you know, I challenge myself with everything. And I go back to this just because, you know, people should wait and they should not worry if, you know, even if they do this for 5, 6, 10 years, they're still not able to do that. It takes a little bit of time. Some people faster, some people slower, but it takes time.
Yeah, I think that's true. It does take time. And what we try to do at Cityscape is allow people time to move faster or slower according to where they're at. But I think trying things out is good. You know, just look around. Where is their need? Try something. Analyze it, assess it. Ask people, is this useful? If it's not useful, then you adapt and you deploy elsewhere until you hit your power scene.
It's funny because I love when a discussion flows the way it is flowing right now, because each single question it's leading up to the next one. And, you know, it is my job as a moderator of this discussion to kind of bring you to the next question in a seamless way.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, you know, go for it. You know
Okay.
that we do these videos in order to inspire others to do more and better. Now, as I've already said, we want to inspire the younger ones, but we also want to inspire those who are a little bit more experienced, but maybe they have fallen into, you know, a mental block. Do you think that there is something that especially the youngest generations are still not understanding about this industry? Do you think there is something that sometimes people end up people with a little bit more experience end up not understanding about this industry? And therefore, what would your advice be to them? And I understand that the question could be a little bit tricky, could be a little bit weird in a way. English, it's not my main language, so I know that I don't do a very good job with that. In my case, one of the things that I've understood is that getting a job in archivist doesn't mean that you can have, say, a 3D modeling skill and you can wait for somebody to tell you what to do. This is a field where you need to do boom, 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 action, do something,
that's right.
bring it to your boss, and then you can have a discussion. Waiting around will not take you anywhere. That's my personal thing. What is your...
That's very true. What's my thing? Well, I didn't come to the industry young. I was 32. But I have interviewed dozens of young applicants. But also the whole industry is young. This is a young industry. It's 30 years old. It's not, you know, when you compare it to the systems that are in place in film and in advertising, it doesn't compare. Our industry is full of studios with less than 10 people in them. That's a young industry. And it's reflected in some of the focus that's put in material in the press and in forums and sometimes at events, focus put on techniques and tips. I think the focus on that reflects the fact that it's a young industry. And so I don't have techniques and tips to offer because I don't think that's the core of the issue. I think the core of the, so I'm saying that because what I've found when I've interviewed most people, but especially the younger people, is that when I ask them what they're looking for, they say they're looking to learn. And that's great. And learning does, we all want to learn, and it gives us a sense of fulfillment to feel that we're learning and growing. But of course the company has to survive and thrive. And the company doesn't exist to enable learning of the, you know. So what I would advise to people to look for, to understand about the industry, is don't ask yourself, what will I learn at this place? But ask yourself, what can I contribute? What value am I going to bring to the cause to make the studio more successful, to make its brand stronger, to improve its output? What do I bring? And the learning will follow.
And the learning will follow. Damian, listen, believe it or not, we've been going at it for 56 minutes. My goal is to keep these discussions 30 minutes or less. We talked half an hour before getting to the actual interview. I just want to thank you for your time. I know that you're a very busy person. I'm going to put all the details to your company in the description of this video. I just want to thank you on behalf of the D2 so much. I want to give you a big virtual hug, and I look forward to seeing you at the D2 conference next year, hopefully.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm going to stop the video. You can say goodbye now, but don't go anywhere. We're gonna talk in a second.
Okay. Thanks everyone. Goodbye.